Recorded. All right. So we study about a book that called King Melinda. That is the Buddhist king. He had conversation with a Buddhist monk. So that's what we talking about here. Yeah. Okay. So we come up here. This one probably it may not be applicable, but later on we can see. Would you like to start?
Solving of the dilemmas, the minor and lesser precept. It has been said by the Blessed One, it is from higher knowledge, O monks, that I teach Dhamma. Yet he also said, when I am gone, Ananda, let the order, if it should be so wish, abolish the minor and lesser precepts. Where then those precepts laid down in error and without due cause, when the Blessed One, O King, said, let the order abolish the lesser and minor precepts, it was said in order to test the monks. As a king on his deathbed would test his son, saying, the outer regions of my kingdom will be in danger of falling after my death. Then would his sons on the death of their father give up those outlying districts.
So I need to share the screen with Jay and yeah, please. Yeah, can you summarize this? Can you summarize?
So apparently when the Buddha was teaching, there were lots and lots of precepts for the monks and for that order. And apparently when after he died, did he give orders that some of them were more flexible? Because I guess the point that one of the points that the Buddha made was when they were traveling, that was his path was supposed to be culturally flexible, so that maybe some of the lesser precepts of that time could be given up. I actually had a really long discussion about this the other night with Reverend Nanda.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, all the rules, especially monastic rules, were established by the Buddha based on the codes.
Right.
If someone mess up, he will make that rules. He didn't put the rule first beforehand. For example, if someone let's say one story about the monk. A monk, you're not supposed to get married, have families. So for the first 20 years, according to the history, so Buddha didn't lay down the rules. But later on, there's one monk. He left the Sangha to go back to visit his mom and his former wife. And his mom said, wow, because you become a monk, so I don't have any grandchild. Why don't you stay back one night with your former wife so that you can give her some kind of grandchild for me. And after that, you can go. So because Buddha didn't he hasn't established any rules yet, so he did. And when he came back, he told all the monks, I'm sorry, I slept with my former wife, and so forth, so forth. So Buddha called him in and say, no, from now on you can't. So based on this type of incident, problems, Buddha gave the rules accordingly. So he didn't put the rule first. So do all the rules. So before he passed away, he said, yeah, so if they want to keep some lesser, that's great. If they want to delete, that's okay. It's up to them. So, but Buddha be flexible. Rule is for live in harmony with each other, not to be strict and not to type. That's what it is for. Yeah. All right, Daniel and Jay, you follow. Yeah, please.
Okay. No, indeed, venerable sir. Kings are grasping. Princes might, in their lust for power, subjugate an area twice what they already had, but they would never willingly give up what they possessed. Just so, O king, the sons of the Buddha, in their enthusiasm for the Dhamma, might keep even more than 150 regulations, but they would never give up any that had been laid down.
You understand?
I understand it on one level that no, we will never give up any of the rules, but I don't fully understand why they would hold on to it so tightly.
Yeah. Okay. We don't discuss much about the root here. If you feel comfortable, you read, or if you don't, that's okay.
I don't know.
That's
what's going
okay.
on, Just
That's
listening.
okay. You
I'm
can
getting
listen.
used to
Yeah.
your accent. I don't know the words I'm reading,
I understand.
but it's okay.
Yeah.
Just don't ask me to read.
For sure.
Venerable Nagasena, when the Blessed One referred to the minor and lesser precepts, people might be in doubt as to which these were. Those acts of wrongdoing are the lesser precepts, and wrong speech refers to the minor precepts. The elders who convened the first Buddhist council were not unanimous about this matter. Acts of wrongdoing are the lesser precepts, and wrong speech refers to the minor. That seems important, but I'm not sure what he's talking about.
So the minor one is something that's not clear yet. Those are wrongdoing. The wrong speakers depend. Sometimes like this way, like white light, for example. Yeah, in that sense. So in the first Buddhist council, right, 3 months after Buddha passed away, 500 Buddhist holy monk they flew to the cave and decided Buddha teaching. That's what the first Buddhist council is about.
The esoteric teaching. The Blessed One said to Ananda, in respect of the Dhamma, the Tathagata does not have the closed fist of a teacher who holds something back. Yet when he was questioned by Kayakuta, he made no answer. Was it because of ignorance that he did not reply, or did he wish to conceal something?
So the question for this one is about this one, you know, Westman, this number. Frivolous or Socrates speech that does not amount to lying, abuse the monk. So that's what question about. Yeah. Or this question. Sorry. It relates to the monk. He said that. Can you tell me how the earth formed? Otherwise, I will destroy. So Buddha said, well, when you came to me to become a monk, I didn't put that type of question on you. So it's up to you. So basically, the Buddha didn't respond to any type of what you call metaphysics. Metaphysical question. This is abstract. It's not more practical. And the Buddha said that it's like if someone shoot you an arrow, a poison arrow, would you try to find some medicine? Actually, would you try to take out that arrow and apply some medicine first, or would you investigate who shoot this arrow and what type of material this arrow was made and so forth? You understand that? So in Buddhist view, especially Buddha view, he provides the teaching to help us to transform certain, and not for discussion about some abstract idea, metaphysical question. It's not practical. But of course, later on, he explained that for this type of situation, so that's what he made no answers there. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, it was not because of ignorance, nor for the sake of concealing anything that you did not answer. A question may be answered in one of 4 ways. Within analysis, the counter question, or by setting it aside. And what sort of questions should be answered directly? Is matter impermanent? Is feeling impermanent? Is perception impermanent? It should be answered directly.
Yeah, West.
At first, he's talking about a master gatekeeper, and I guess addressing the questions that are being asked. You know, are you asking metaphysical abstract questions that can be answered, where some of them cannot without knowing, versus an answer that is tangible and correct.
So this is 4 ways to respond to the question, right? Either direct, indirect, or with a counter question, or by set aside. So depend, right? In our situation too, in our daily life, sometimes we don't need to respond right away. We may use some ways to imply our response. So,
But you know, I don't know if anybody's seen how the Tibetans, so the Buddhist debate, of course, some of it's really stylized. I think some of that applies to that, where they do very stylized, forms of debate. And it's really interesting. The Tibetans do it with one person sits on the ground, and then they have their beads, and they go, and then they sling their beads up on their shoulder. Of course, I don't understand Tibetan, so I can't really follow what they're saying, but it's really interesting to watch. And I know it's very specific, and it's about like the speed and the way you answer it. Like it's all judged. The Dalai Lama goes around and
you see that, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
No? Okay, let me type for you here.
IUS once.
You did? Did you see that?
The Tibetans, yeah, they came to IUS one time.
Oh, really? Or here,
Yeah.
this one here.
They,
Oh, they did? In Tibetan language?
very dynamic.
yeah, it's really interesting
Yeah.
to watch. It looks really angry too.
It does, it sounds angry.
Yeah.
To understand Tibetan Buddhism, there's no better way than watching monk debate. All right, what is monk debate in the first place? In Tibet, a monastery is like a Buddhism school, and monk debate, just like the dissertation defense in college, is the unique way for Tibetan monks to attain a higher understanding of Buddha's teaching. However, the process of higher understanding doesn't come easy. During the monk debate, you will see an intense but meanwhile peaceful scene. On one hand, standing monks would use exaggerated whip-like handwork to ask questions related to some Buddhism philosophical topics. Then, another sitting monk or several monks answer the question based on their comprehension of Buddhism scriptures. The two sides then argue back and forth with a mix of aggressive lamp-lighting, aggressive pointing, and intense verbal exchange that makes you somewhat understand it, even if you have no idea what they're saying. On the other hand, when you're just thinking they are about to fight, the peaceful smile on every monk's face indicates that they're actually enjoying it a lot. It is this unique style that keeps captivating tourists from all over the world. If you want to see this unique monk debate, the best places to go to are the 3 major Tibetan monasteries.
Okay, yeah. So that's just the debate. So how about in the courthouse? How can the lawyer intimidate the other lawyer?
Oh, yeah.
How they may look? How?
Well, I think that's followed with a little less ethics, maybe. It's pretty specific in Buddhist debate where you don't omit certain things that lead people to the wrong conclusion and stuff like that, where very much lawyers will omit certain things to lead everyone to the wrong.
To the answer they want.
Yeah.
It also reminds me of like a rap battle.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the music genre rap, like different rappers in person will sometimes compete. Like one of them will try to make like the best song, and they'll be criticizing the other person sometimes, and like attributes of the other person, and the other person has to come back with their own song, like off the top of their head, coming back to the other person and like criticizing them and explaining why they're better. It's kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, and
Because they
then
do like those kind of gestures too with a microphone though instead of.
They are very similar.
and as a teacher, right? Sometimes we may not need to respond to the student directly, right? Sometimes we may say, "Okay, I will explain to you later on." If they ask some silly question, right? If it's straightforward, then do instead easily. How about how you deal with the little one? They ask some kind of weird.
They love to ask me what time it is, and I always tell them the time, but they can't tell time. Like the time means nothing. But they're like, they really want to ask me when is something happening, but that's not the question they ask me. So that's not the question I answer. Like, what time is it? 11:15.
It means
Like it means nothing. So they have
Yeah.
no idea what's happening at that part of the day. If they're like, what time do we go to art? It's like, oh, which they still don't know what it
Too
is.
young, too young to watch the time, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. About some question that they sometimes they ask out the topic, right?
Oh, all the time.
All the times, right? Mhm. Yeah. So anyway,
Talk about that later. Tell me your recess.
yeah.
Wait till your father gets home.
Yeah, it's just in our daily life, whichever way we can respond. If it's easy to respond, we respond right away. Otherwise, we can postpone, put aside, or respond in the indirect way. That's and this is the old style. As you have been tradition of debate, following the Buddhist Indian Buddhist style. Yeah, it's not nothing to do with what we call violent act, right? To see they're happy. It's just the way they intimate, right? The other one so that they can scare of them to see whether they still have concentration, focus on their reply or not. So usually they say that the one that sit down, the one that respond to the question, the one that stand up and have that kind of movement, right? Body, the hand movement, and one that put the question, so that they can have that kind of debate. Yeah. In yeah, in school, in high school, in college, they have the kind of debate classes. Is that in which one? What class is that? You know,
Usually they have to do an argument and writing.
a public speaking.
And then, yeah, sometimes in whatever speech class.
Oh, this one. Yeah. This one and can you see?
And what should be answered with analysis is what is impermanent matter. And what should be answered with the counter question? Can the I perceive all things? And which should be set aside? Is the world eternal? Is the world not eternal? Does the Tathagata exist after death? Does he not exist after death? Is the soul the same as the body? The body one thing and the soul another? It was this sort of question that the Blessed One gave no reply to. There was no answer to it. The Buddha did not speak without reason.
Okay. Yeah. That's related to this month that mentioned when he asked whether the Buddha exists after his death or the world is eternal or not eternal. So he keeps silent. That's why the monk say, if you don't reply to me, I have to leave. So the monk say, well, if you want to, let's go. That's okay. That's your choice. So basically, he doesn't want to talk much about physical principle or theories, so that it's so lofty. that they forget to do the practice. But if you read a lot of Zen story, right, you know that some Zen teacher they didn't say much, but they act through they teach through the action. You remember any Zen story? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Into the teacup.
Yeah. Mm. You know any story? Any Zen story? You remember some, right?
I remember that one. I've heard other ones, but I can't remember off the top of my head. And then there was one with like a baker. I can't remember one. Oh, and there's the one where like the guy like throws all the gold in the river.
There's another one, well, although it's more of a question. I want a question about that. So then flying the flag.
You know some Zen story? With some, you remember?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You never read this stuff. You know what
I'm
means
thinking
Zen?
of something about a man carrying something across the river, and it gets to the other side, and I said, oh, you should have left it back there. It was
Yeah.
either anchor or something, or a turtle, or something was on his back. I don't know if that was in the story or not.
I think there's some various ones that are like that. Like one is like a raft, and then there's one that's like it's like a woman who like asks for help like crossing, and like the one month like helps her cross, and then like they walk for a while, and 1 month like, you're not supposed to like carry a woman. That's inappropriate. I left the woman back there. You're still thinking about her.
Yeah,
That's
I remember
that
that.
story. I remember.
How about the hole in the walking, and you fall in, down, walk around.
Yeah, that's why most of the time they didn't talk much. They teach through action. Same.
Think of the Tao Te Ching, focus, through now.
Anyway, so that's related to the teaching, is Zen teaching, but they focus on whether you recognize the principle or not. Not talk much about the discussion about whether the world is eternal or not eternal, so to speak. All right, so let's see here. Let's go back here up there.
Fear of death. The Blessed One said, all tremble at punishment, all are afraid of death. Yet he also said, the Arhat had passed beyond all fear. How is it then? Do the Arhats tremble at the fear of death? Or are beings in hell afraid of death, by which they may gain
Hmm.
Yeah. Do the enlightened people, are they worried about death or whatever, but that shouldn't be a no.
About we here. What do you think?
What, now?
About in our case, we afraid of death.
I mean, that's something I like to, I like to work on. I mean, that's something I work on is my fear of death, or not my non-fear of death. You know, and of course I read plenty and understand the meditations over the dead bodies. So I'm very familiar with it and have really tried to make a different relationship with it for myself. I don't know that most people really want to investigate like that.
In the West, right? In this American culture, we don't want to talk much about that, right? We talk about birthday, we talk about the youth, we like to talk about something growing, something about that.
I hate that. I was
Definitely,
scared of it. I hate it.
definitely.
I came back to Louisville and 15 people have died. And then I got to see death and my sister. She was into the Buddhist thing and put her in white and put marigolds all around her. It traumatized me. So I am traumatized by death. But my other sister, who's this calm, beautiful thing, saying, "Oh, there's over the dead body." I will never view another dead body as long as I live. And I fear my death. But I don't think I'm going to go to hell or whatever. Because I'm very spiritual, but it scares me to death. I'm not one with it. I don't like it. I hate it. So that's what I think about that.
Not easy. How about you?
I don't think I fear death, but we shall see when the time comes.
Good answer.
We never think that we one day have to go, right? We always think that we're younger forever, right?
It's true. I try to practice memento mori, and I don't do it every day, but I try to as often as possible. Know your death, and it's actively think about your passing and the fact that you are ever closer to death.
Every
And
minute.
so you should every minute. So, and it's not to obsess about death or dying. It's to encourage you to make the most of your life that you're living by acknowledging the fact that time is slipping away. As we sit here.
That's one of the things that kind of in my practice that I've really kind of started habituating. If I die in 5 minutes from now, if I just get sucked off the face of the earth, is this how I want to go? Am I doing the things that, if I would go right? And so that is something I constantly have. Okay, well, if I die today, did I go out doing it the way I wanted to go?
Every instant, our cell, right? Dying and breathing, dying and breathing, right? Our cell, our skin cell, right? Yeah, dying and breathing, and so forth and so forth. So again, yeah, it's not easy to accept, but one day it will be our turn. We can.
I think for the Westerners that maybe have a fear of that, Ram Dass does some really great, beautiful discussions that really help make. And he was trained in a number of traditions, but he's a brilliant speaker. And there's just some really beautiful ways he talks about becoming nobody and surrendering to it and stuff like that. So, like if you're struggling, I know for me, like when I was struggling to put down some animals or I lost a bunch of people in the past year also, that was something that was so comforting to see that where you could change your perspective and welcome the change.
I want to go back to my life where I never even thought about that. Now, I don't know what age that was. Maybe it was 55. Past 60, all I do is think about death now. But I like it those years. I want to go back to my. I don't want to go further. Die.
So what do you think? When you think about that, what do you think? It's scary or accept that?
No, I'm not really afraid of death. I'm afraid of how I'll die. Like if it's horribly painful, that scares me. But the idea of just not existing anymore and my karma moving on. It's inevitable.
Or you?
I don't know how I feel about it. Like, it's never been a thing that's super positive. I was thinking when we were talking about it, I was thinking about River. She came to the Lambana, and because the girls were handing out flowers, they gave her a pink flower instead of a red flower. We had to explain to her what pink flower meant. And she literally, like a few weeks earlier, had lost her great grandfather.
Oh, no.
And so she's been kind of in depth right now, kind of figuring it out. And just watching her kind of like, she was okay with death, but she's like, oh, okay. But then she's like,
but then I won't see you again. Like it was that separation, that attachment to the person that she missed. It wasn't death. Like she was okay with the death part. It was that separation. She was scared. So I don't know. Maybe I'm the same way. Maybe.
Yeah, and she'll ask us every now and then, when are you gonna die? I'm like, no, not like wanting us to die, but like because she understood at Ulamana, one day her parents will be dead. And so now she wants to know when that's gonna happen. I guess we should be prepared. And we're like, we can't know. We don't know. One day. Hopefully we'll be very old.
Yeah.
I'm not very afraid of my own death, but my parents are at an age where I think about them dying and worry about a lot. I mean, I've lost other people. That's sad and it's hard. A few people on my path, but I think my parents and stuff, even animals. So, no, I'm not really afraid of myself, but it's the attachment to other people that bothers me.
You, Ivan, what do you think?
I feel like I have a different relationship with it. I've experienced that both with parents, etc. I'd say I accepted impermanence,
Yeah.
greater than the security death, including with myself. It is part of some of our it's like everything seems like
Have you ever observed anyone from life to death before? You did? How was that? How that's it? How was the first time that you witnessed that?
I was amazed at how peaceful, how in martial arts we train to breathe, right? But it's poorly translated in the transition to other, right? And to impermanence. You truly get to see and experience life, not just.
One of the things that I love that what Ram Dass says about death. Death is perfectly safe for the dying person, right? He says, don't worry that it's just like taking off a shoe that's too tight. But I think you're right. Like when you really, really like have internalized the impermanence of everything. Like for me, you know, euthanizing my 18-year-old dog. Of course, I mean, of course the grief, which I always feel like grief is a different monster than me, but it kind of has its own thing. But what I had internalized the impermanent nature of everything, that there was a separation between my grief and then also just going, oh, this is just how it happens, and the more I resist any of it, the worse the grief gets, the worse my experience gets. So like, how is it that I can be present in this moment and feel all of it and love this too?
I asked a question. So this conversation is very centralized around a perceived living,
Right.
animal, etc. Do you see in yourself the same perception of death in something perceived as an act? Your phone no longer works. You perceive that as a death.
Or like Khandad said, like the cells in our bodies are always dying. I think it's like every 7 years, like 98% of your body will have like completely regenerated. So in a way, like we've already like died and been born again like a bunch of times in this life. It's one thing that I think about sometimes.
It's the thing I always think about, and we kind of say this as a joke, but it's really true. Like you've been dying since the day you were born.
Yeah.
Like you've literally been dying your whole entire life, and just sort of like, okay, this is important.
Your anecdote about River's the little one, right?
Yeah.
Reminds me, I have a friend who has a daughter who's about River's age actually. 4, I think she's 4 now. It's hard to keep track of the girls. But anyway, she recently had the same discovery, and her mom, my friend, is basically like an atheist or agnostic, but is open to other ideas. But you know, whenever her daughter asks, like, what happened? What happened? Mom was like, oh well, you'll turn into a tree, and so like you'll die, and your body will be recycled by the earth. But what she got out of it, she's like, okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm dying now. Okay, I'm on the ground. And she's like, I was like, that's morbid in a way, but very
I
sweet.
like that.
Beautiful too.
Yeah.
Actually,
Instinct.
Dalai Lama in the Tibetan tradition is always remind them that they have that kind of practice. They practice a few times per day to view yourself, to contemplate yourself that you die. Because that, of course, when we talk about dying, yeah, most of it we don't want to talk about that. But it's the reality. No matter who we are, right, young or old, one day we have to go. Especially the one who live in the war times era, like you can now. Right? I was born in Vietnam. I saw when I was little, right, during Vietnam War before 1975. I saw many of them, especially the soldier, the one that died on the battlefield. And at that time, I was too young. I didn't know that. And when I escaped from Vietnam to Malaysia, came on the boat, I seen many people. They talk about dying, but I have not seen directly. But for me, as a monk, Buddhist monk, I used to do the funeral services for the people, and most of the time they pass away first, and I came to do the prayer. But sometimes, few times, I observed that, I witnessed someone that from that the times that they were still alive in the drug section that they died, and that's one I can recognize. No matter what happened, whether it's when we talk about death, illness, whichever, if we have open mind to accept that, it's much easy. If we try to fight, like you say, right?
Well, I haven't even had a chance to read the full meditation, but my phone rang before class, and what it was a nun had sent me a meditation about death, and these are and so she also sent me a picture of the how they meditate over the dead bodies, and so
it's scary, right?
so what it is that they, I haven't read what she sent me, but I do know the process is they sit there and they watch, because when you do Vipassana meditation, you break down everything down to like the fluids in your body, to all that, to understand all the different parts of your body. And then, so the more advanced version of that is to meditate over the decomposing body, to see the nature of that change as well.
I see patients at work dead or dying, or even when I see like an animal that's dead, like in the roads, I'll say in my mind, or sometimes out loud, I'll say, I want to beat up for them, so they'll go to Carolina. But also similar to what Kristen was saying and what you said earlier, I was thinking, this is like really deep in like the sutras, but they talk about everything that we perceive as like things, including ourselves, people, this table, whatever. There's not really any things. It's the word they use in the sutras is skandhas, which means bundles or like collection attributes. So nothing is really a thing. Like there's not really a Josh. There's like
a beard and like legs. And nose is like cells and blood and organs. And if you go down deeper, it's like atoms. And if you go even deeper than the atoms, it's energy. And then it gets even weirder, beyond that.
Because we're bouncing, also, if you
Yeah.
look at quantum physics, there's also us bouncing in and out of a different dimension, like our atoms are behaving differently in a different dimension.
And there's an interesting word that they use in Sanskrit and Pali in some of the sutras, that's Pagala, which is usually translated to mean like being. But if you go really deep into the meaning of the word, which I'm obsessed with learning the meanings of words and like where they come from, Pagala actually means like thing that's made up of smaller pieces that are coming and going. Like Pud is what like the ancient giants thought everything was made of, kind of like an atom. And so Pagala is like little things that are coming and going. Pagala is like a word that some of us use for like a person. So,
Well, all of it's designed, all of the Buddhist meditations and all of that is designed to show you how there isn't really this self. There's not really a self here anyways, but that's just your perception that there's a self or something like that. But, if you break it down enough, you're just the molecule. You're just the awareness behind a certain clump of molecules and cells and all that, because you're not your mind, you're not your body.
we're all basically like the universe, just
Yeah.
like showing up in like different patterns for
Right.
a while and then like
Changing
away.
Yeah, pop show where they billions off that in that book.
Right, I'm sure I'm a little familiar with them, not very.
Is that the box? You
Yeah.
travel, then they will manifest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Buddha used to encourage the monks to go to the cemetery to contemplate for death, to observe that how corpse, like she mentioned, right, the process of decaying of the corpse, so that they don't attach themselves to others, especially opposite sex. Yeah, and of course, probably it's more prevalent in the Theravada tradition.
Theravada tradition.
In Maha tradition, we don't do that, but like you say, instead of just observing those processes, we pray for the disease to take people to the birth to the Buddha land and so forth.
So does Buddhism believe in reincarnation?
We do, yeah.
Do you come back as people or things?
Depend our karma. Depend our karma. If we are doing good karma, we come back as human, or we can be back as some celestial beings up
Okay,
there.
in a lifetime, if you're sick and tired of coming back, like I am, what can I do so I don't have to come back for it?
That's one
Okay.
of the
So-
Buddhism
so
is.
that's-
Yeah.
I need a rest.
Yeah, you
Need
can.
a rest. Is that-
Yeah.
So-
If I'm afraid to death,
You hit the nail on the head, basically, because that's
Yeah.
what Buddhism teaches.
That's
It's
what
like-
we're doing here.
Yeah.
So we don't have to come back and do it again.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
tired.
You got to be
Yeah.
enlightened in this lifetime.
Yeah, that's why in Pure Land tradition, if you have this cycle, go to Buddha land, you live forever. Yeah, that's why we say
In the
Namo
in the
Amida
Theravada tradition, which is the historical or most historical.
Oldest.
To the Buddhist
conservative
teaching,
one.
yeah. So this tradition, they have Pure Land and some other ways to attain enlightenment. But in the Theravada tradition, if you attain enlightenment, which the Buddha did, then after you die, you're done.
Yeah.
Yay!
There's, I think I can summarize like kind of like a whole cosmology pretty briefly. It's like you're asking about reincarnation. There's what we call samsara, which means like the cycle of rebirth. It's like a wheel, and like there's higher ones than this, and then there's lower ones than this, and humans are basically like right in the middle. But the goal is to get completely off the cycle. So like below humans is like animals, and then ghosts, and then hell, and then above humans is like demigods and gods.
And then outside, the whole wheel is like, yeah.
To the whole process. That's why if you ask most of the elderly Buddhists here, they like to go to Buddha land so that they won't be reborn again.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't practice meditation much.
Yeah.
They do that kind of practice. They say Amitabha Buddha. So that is similar to Christian tradition in a way, right? So if they believe in God, right, they go up there forever, or they may be condemned to the hell forever. But in Buddhism, even we go up to the heaven, we stay for millions or trillions of years. One day we have to go around again. Like if we are billionaires or trillionaires, one day we may use up all our wealth. We have to do again. In this sense, that's why in whether Mahayana tradition or Mahathera tradition, is always encourage us to go beyond life and death, go beyond this kind of cycle. Like you say, it's boring. We have to face that whenever we're here. So that's not easy. And I think it's just if we visit the nursing home, right? Many of them, right? Every people, it's scary for them, especially they don't have the faith. It's scary for them. They don't know where they're headed to. It's not easy, right? So we don't know. We didn't know that where we came from. We don't know where we headed to. But in Buddhist view, the thing which know for sure is our karma that we have done, or that we are working now. That's more important. The important thing is what we do now will affect our future, whether it's tomorrow, next month, next year, or even next life. So it's that's pretty important with the present moment. Yeah. So it's not easy, right? It's not easy to accept the reality of life, right, when it's calm, especially our family members. It's, during COVID-19, right? It's many some people they lost their spouse, their relatives, their friends, and so forth. It's not easy to accept that, and even when they have to go. I have some students they lost their relatives, the parents, grandparents. It's so sad for them. But if they recognize as a part of life, eventually, maybe say it could transform the gift. Not easy. Yeah. Not easy to accept, right?
Yeah, but there is, I mean, the Buddhist path, I think, has a very, I feel like a clear way of learning step by step how to come to terms with death, how to remove your thinking so much from having to protect this thing that yourself, and how you can just be at ease and welcome everything. That means, so if you're enlightened, everything can happen, and that light in you is unwavering. But you got to do the work. That's a lot of work.
Not thinking about the death. People talk about some kind of terminal illnesses, right? Like cancer, right? If someone's have this type of terminal illness, it's like that sensitive for them. So no matter what, in Buddhist view, that as let's say in our daily life, if we have stomach or head, if we accept that we have only one layer of suffering, physical suffering. If we don't accept that, we have two layers: the body and the mind. Our physical suffering and our mental suffering.
I do both.
That's why. That's two layers.
I'm proud of my body all the time, because I like permanence and I don't like change. Is there something I can read that will help me accept impermanence? I hate it when I go into my Kroger and they've changed the aisles.
Can you name one thing that's permanent?
No, I can see my mind knows this, but I still fight against it. No, I want to live forever. No.
There's not one example of something permanent that you can give.
Even rocks just kind of.
Rocks change,
Yeah.
mountains change,
Change.
oceans change.
Changes.
So why am I
the
fighting
only permanent thing?
It's the only thing That's the
One
only.
is,
Change
Change.
itself.
Right, yeah, so you can either fight that and hate it, or you can make friends with it and welcome it and say, there's enough of me to be able to witness it all.
I
Yeah.
keep reading Tina Chodra. She's like, you have to accept change.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh,
She's one of
when
the,
am I gonna accept it?
Yeah.
Or you will suffer. Well, yeah, that's why I'm suffering.
yeah,
That's
you're
right.
suffering.
So you have the
because
choice.
don't like the-
Either be happy or be suffer. If you accept, you be happy. If you don't accept, you suffer. That's your
Right.
choice. That's all. You're not, so they have only that two choices. That's all. But it takes time. It takes time to recognize us.
And practicing letting go of, just letting go, and of course you can just regular meditation really starts training you to let go of certain thoughts, and so the more you practice letting go, whatever that is, the bigger you can build that into your life, and the more accepting you can become of, just not attaching to anything. I don't need to attach. Let it go. But it's something that you have to incrementally learn how to do and train your brain how to do it and recognize it. And it's definitely possible. But I think that's where the biggest part of this practice leads you, is to learn to let go and accept everything in all
I'd love to be able to do that.
Yeah.
slowly but surely you can.
It's, yeah, I named them off the top of my head, but yeah, the Four Noble Truths is basically like some of the main parts of Buddhism, in which, the Buddha, he was like, the main cause of suffering in the world is that everything is temporary, and when we cling on to temporary things, it causes suffering. And the path, the Dharma, that the Buddha Dharma is like the path to abandoning, to leaving behind that suffering by training yourself to let go of all the temporary things, to let go of the attachments. And it's not, some people think it means to be like attached and like, but it's not like that. It's like, if you're overly attached to some things, it's not always good either. It's like a healthy kind of non-attachment where you don't like, sometimes you lose things even faster if you cling on to them too hard, like like squeezing sand through your fist.
I think I know when I discuss with people that don't know much about Buddhism, the non-attachment really gets to them. So I like to change it to the letting go.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not that you can't love something, and it's not that you can't appreciate things. And of course, we train this like compassion muscle, but the non-attachment is being able to let go of, your predictions about the future, let go of how you think things should be, let go of the way you think you should feel, let go of all of it.
Clinging.
Yeah, so the non-attachment trick, people are like, well, I should love people, and it's like, well, but letting them go to be free is where that, that you want to see that their freedom, or that you're able, if somebody dies or whatever it is, they move on to their own life, their own choices, that you can let that go and let that be exactly how it is.
I don't. I say, Romel, come in my dream. And then she does. And I've done it for 11 years. Hey, Romel, I need a visit. And then she'll come and talk to me in my dream. So I don't let go easily.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's stunting her. She is.
I've seen dead people, loved ones in my dreams before.
Oh, I have great visitations.
Yeah.
People come knocking in my front door and all kinds of things.
Yeah, like Kirsten was saying, it can also be like, I had like 2020, 2021 was
really horrible for me. Before that, I had a life that I was really comfortable with. I was involved in a lot of different things that I enjoyed, and I had a lot of different friends, and I had a job that was better than my current job in a lot of ways. I had like a nice house. It was like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It was a pretty good life. I had a cool car,
Is it permanent stain?
but I lost it all. Yeah, I lost it all over a span of just a few months. Really, just a lot of terrible things happened, and it was related to COVID, but not entirely. But yeah, I lost it all, and after I lost it, I spent like the better part of a year, like several months, 10 months, 7 months, 8 months, 10 months, something like that. Just so depressed that I didn't do anything. I don't know, I don't like to talk about it. I tried to kill myself actually. But then I finally came to the point where I was like, well, I'm so obsessed about this life that's gone that I'm not looking at, all the potential that my life has now. All of that is over, and it was fine, and I can remember it if I want to, in like a healthy way that I'm not, imagining I can go back, because part of the process was I kept trying to like get everything I lost back. I was trying to purchase things. I was trying to reconnect with people I burned bridges with. I tried to get my old job back, stuff like that. And you can't go back sometimes. So I had to just be like, no, this is my new life, and I'm just gonna start all over. And that's scary at first, but then I've actually been gradually enjoying it more and more. And I see like now in a lot of ways it's better, not in other ways, but in a lot of ways. And then, I also see like, I try to stay in the present, but I see a possibility for a future that was better than I could have ever had if things had stayed the same. Like now I have a chance to have a completely different situation that could be better than I could have imagined before. Because even when things were good, I was like stuck. It's kind of like in Buddhism, they talk about you can if you're really good, you can be reborn in a heaven instead of like the Buddha land. But the heaven even has its limits and it's temporary. It's kind of like that's where I was at within my regular life in a way. It was like I had a life that I thought was perfect, but it was limited and it was temporary. And so now
I think one of the really great things that a intensive meditation practice really, or it did for me, showed me, highlighted, is the ability to start over at any second. Like, you lose your concentration, I'll just start over again. I'll start over again. And then, which makes me think of the Alan Watts, one of my favorite Alan Watts quotes is, "You're under no obligation to be the same person you were 10 minutes ago."
So we have this beautiful flower garden,
I know.
up there, right? Yeah, when they get cooler, right?
Well, I've already yanked out a bunch of them. I've already
We can
been pulling
accept that.
out
That's the nature of life. Here we have 4 seasons. So we have to go with the flow. If we go with the flow, we're more peaceful. Otherwise, if we don't accept that, I have to be nice, I have to be warm all the times. Of course, we can move down to Florida, but here we have to accept that if we live here, to accept that the seasons changing. And that's impermanent there. It's not easy, but we have only 2 choices: accept to be happy, or against us to be suffer. That's all. That's our choice. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So see you, and please you come back tomorrow. Right? We have a children festival tomorrow. Tomorrow night.
Unfortunately, my wife and I have a prior engagement. So.
You coming? Okay. 7 p.m. We have children festival here. We have firework and line dance.
Okay.
Okay.
Food, apples.
Lots of that.
All right. So see you. Thank you.
It's more fun weddings over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
We have them, because And some of the ladies brought some home for their families. I mean, we had like the whole like tractor filled up and like 5 carts.
How much did they pay for?
Oh,
For
I
the
don't know. I
packet?
wasn't-
One.
I wasn't up there.
Monday,
People kept stopping to ask me what I was doing.
Was that? So
Why do you